Hello and welcome back to the Complete Web Dev series. In this chapter, we are actually learning React.js. I believe this is going to be our last chapter in this series. I may do a few additional videos at the end, but we're going to dive in. And first, I wanted to show you guys something. So in the United States, we have an organization called Girl Scouts, and once a year, they go around and do fundraising and they sell cookies. And there's everybody has a favorite Girl Scout cookie, and it's just part of culture here that you're probably going to buy some Girl Scout cookies, or someone that's going to buy Girl Scout cookies, or you probably know someone who's going to sell you Girl Scout cookies. Now they've progressively gotten more expensive over the years, which I guess is fine since it's a fundraiser. But some of the most delicious Girl Scouts, in my opinion, are Thin Mints. Now Thin Mints are these little chocolate cookies. They're like little wafer cookies, and they're chocolate, but they have a mint flavor to them. So it's a weird mixture, and I don't know why it's good, but it's pretty good. They have a few other cookies that I like as well. I'm kind of a plain person, so I also like their shortbread ones. I think they're called I can't remember what they're called right now off the top of my head, but they're pretty good too. But anyways, the reason I bring that up is because I just got this Dunkin' Donuts, which is a franchise here that sells coffee and donuts in the morning. They're not extraordinarily good, I don't think. They're a little overpriced, but they make this little iced coffee, and this is a coffee drink that is flavored like Girl Scouts Thin Mints. And anyway, and you can see a picture of what a Thin Mint looks like, and it's pretty good. It's got like it's like a chocolate coffee that has like a mint flavor to it, but it's very subtle. You don't taste the mint that much, and I like it. And the best way, by the way, to eat these Thin Mint cookies is actually put them in a freezer and freeze them, and they get I don't know, they just have a good texture to them when they're frozen. Anyways, talking about all these cookies, you probably understand why I'm overweight. I like cookies, and I look forward to the time of the year where I can buy Girl Scout cookies, which, by the way, my nieces actually owe me some Girl Scout cookies. I ordered some and I haven't gotten them yet. But anyhow, let's get going. So in this chapter, we're going to get our hands dirty, and we are going to start building our React application. So without any further delay, and sorry for the tangent, but I just walked in and I was like, you know what, this is going to taste good, and I want to share that with you guys. I know that not everybody's ever had a Girl Scout cookie. Very nice. Such refreshing coffee. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a peppermint coffee. Anyway, let's go. I'm gonna switch over to my screen and camera here. And one thing I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna go ahead and let's make this font a little bit bigger. I realized in my last video I accidentally left my terminal font pretty small. So let me see if I can reconcile that here in this video. Let me make this window a little smaller, so that I can blow this up pretty good for you guys. And let me close these other windows just to make sure. So I'm here in I'm not in my correct thing here, so I'm going to back up and get into the correct path. And you can see that I'm on V1, and so I'm going to go ahead and create a new branch here. And I'm going to do that by checking out my master branch, or it may be called main on your computer, but I'm old, so my stuff's all called master still, which I don't have a problem with, by the way. So if you got a problem with master, the word master, you don't understand the English language. It's not about slavery, people. We don't need to change everything. Anyhow, soapbox, I'm done. All right, so master here, and we are going to create a new branch. So we'll do git checkout-b, and I'm going to check out a V2 branch here. I'll go ahead and push that up to GitHub in preparation for you guys to get it. So we'll do set-upstream origin V2. I guess we can get offended by the word origin too if we want. We can get offended by anything. All right, the other thing is, in the last video, we did go ahead and grab the node. So hopefully you have that up and running. I'm going to go ahead and open a new tab here, and dang it, it didn't keep my font size. And I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that. And so we'll do, let's see, I'm going to back up. I have it stored in, let's see, oh, I called it API here. And you can see my branch there is called main, so hey, progress. There we go. I'm gonna clear that, and we'll do, we're gonna do npm start. Man, I'm in a mood today. So we'll do npm start, and this is pretty large. Anyhow, this is running, and you can see that it does create database table. I also have my example up and running. So if I go to localhost, and I go to API, this is the database that was just created, and you can see I have contacts and to-dos, and you know what? I'm gonna actually go and I'm gonna go ahead and delete everything in here for the time being, because you guys won't have anything in here yet. I have some just example stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of all of this stuff. You guys won't have to do this, but you should, if you do go to localhost phpMyAdmin, you should have an API up and running from either the last chapter, or if you've downloaded it from what I showed in the previous, from my GitHub. All right, well, sorry. All right, so now we have that up and running, and let's go ahead and get our application up and running here. Let me just make sure I'm on the right. Make sure I'm on the right tab here so I don't have any personal data pop up. And if I refresh this, you can see that it's not running. So it says connection refused here. And that's because I haven't actually started my React server. So I need to navigate to here, and we'll also do npm start. So notice I did an npm start on this tab, which was the Node.js API. So we got the API running. And let me close this down. We don't need that. We got Node.js running on port 5000 right here. So that's where our API is running on. But React is running on port 3000, and you can see that right here. So there we go. And so if I go to my browser now, and you can see that it has already updated and it's running this application. So what are we going to do? The first thing I think we should do is we're going to build out our menu navigation. That mint chocolate coffee is just not, it's causing me all kinds of hiccups and little micro burp aggressions. All right. So what we want to do here is let's go ahead and we want to go to our app. We remember that we had our app.js. So let's go and look at that. So if we go to source and we go to app.js, remember that everything that we had running in our application gets plugged into our index.html, but this is the entry point for our application here. It's this app.js function. And so what I want to do here is we're actually going to just kind of get rid of everything in here. So I'm going to just leave this up. And you know what, we can even get rid of this class name app. And now we're just returning a div. And if I save that, we go back to our browser, you can see that the page is blank here. And that's because I just deleted all the content out of our React application, and we're gonna build our own. And so you remember how I told you that we're building a single page application, and so it doesn't reload the page or actually navigate anywhere when you go from page to page, but it does update the URL, and if you navigate directly to a page, it will load in the right place in the application. So in order to do that, we have to have a router installed. So let's go ahead and get a router up and running so that we can do that. So let's go ahead and let's go to the terminal here, and I'm going to open a new tab, and again, I guess I'm going to blow this up here. And you remember how I told you that you can add libraries by adding to this package.json to this dependency list? We can add a package here, but I want to show you another way to do this. So let's go now and let's just go to npm. So search for npm. And if you go here, you can search the packages that are available on Node Package Manager, and just search for React Router DOM. Okay, we're going to use this React Router DOM right here. So let's click on that, and you can see that it actually it's very popular library here. But you can see it gives us the installation here. So you can type npm space I for short, and then React router DOM. But I want to save it to my package.json. So what we're going to do is we're going to do npm, and then we're going to type install, and we'll do dash dash. Is it dash dash? I think it's dash save, or dash dash s even. And then we'll put React router DOM. See if I got the right script here. So this may take a moment here, but what it's doing is it is installing React router DOM library. So you can see that that worked. And let's go and look now in our package.json. So you can see that our package.json has updated and added this React router DOM right here, and it got version 6.2.2, which I hope isn't going to be a problem, because back when I first built this, they were on version 5.2.0, which is a major release down. So we'll see if there's any changes that we need to fix here in the application compared to what I have. But what we want to be able to do, I think, starting out, is we want there to be a way for us to basically go to an authentication part of our app where they can log in or get or register, and then we want to be able to have an entry point for when they are already logged in. And so in order to do that, what we're going to do is at the top of this app.json, we need to tell it that we need to use that library that we just installed, and we can get rid of this import logo. We don't need that. We actually don't even need this app.css here, so we can actually get rid of that as well. But what we want to do is, let's just at the top here, let's do import React from React. And so that will import React so that we can use React here. And then we're going to import some things that we need here. So we're going to look for browser router as router. And then we're going to get switch and route. Now we're getting all of these methods or functions, if you will, from the library React router DOM. Okay. So if you're not familiar with this syntax, you should be a little familiar from our last video. In Node.js, we were just using the require syntax. But because React scripts has Babel and all of that, we can actually use the newer formats for import. So we're going to use import here. So we're importing the React class, and this is going to be the default. If you don't put it in curly braces here, it's going to get the default function that's exported from the React library. Now, the browser router, the switch, and the route are all methods that exist inside React router DOM, but we have to put these in curly brackets here because we're actually importing not the default. We're importing these methods directly from this library. Okay, so what we're going to do here is go ahead and inside this div now, and actually instead of the div, we are going to return a router. So I'll change that here. So now we're not returning a div, we're returning this router right here. Now this router is actually short because we used an alias. We created an alias, but it's actually browser router. But I don't like typing all that out. So we just use an alias there. And in this router, what we're going to do is we're going to put a switch in here. And this switch is not like a switch statement, but rather it's a method that is created within React router DOM that it will actually use regular expressions or switch through all the route possibilities of the current route and load a component that you intend to load. So the way that works is we're going to load a route in here, and we don't need the closing deal here, so we can do this. We're going to load a route, and the way that this works is you have to give it a path. And now I know this syntax may look a little weird too because we haven't we haven't talked about the syntax yet, but just bear with me for a moment and we'll get to it, okay? Now it starts at the top and works its way down. But first and foremost, what we want to do is let's just load /auth. So if there is a path that starts with /auth, then we're going to tell it to load a specific component. Now this component that we're going to load, we haven't created yet, but we're going to call this auth index. Okay? And we're going to test this in a moment. So we'll get to that. What's really weird about building this React application is we have to kind of, it's catch-22 where you need to know some things before we build anything, but I can't teach you things until we build something. So some of this, what we're going to do is just some following along, and I'll make it clear as we go, okay? So we have 2 routes in this switch right here, and this is the entry point to our application, right? So what happens is it's going to load this app. Remember, it's loading this because in our index.js, we are using React Router DOM.render, and we're loading the app right here on line 9. And it's injecting this application, the return from that app, into this div element with an ID of root, which we saw in the last video is in the public index.html. So it goes right here. It's going to get injected right there. Okay. So let's go ahead now. We're going to have an issue if we go and look. Now I'm going to save this. And if we go back to our application, you can see that we have compiled with problems. Exported switch, imported switch was not found. So this is probably getting to a situation where they probably updated their API. So let's do something here. Let's try this. Let's go ahead and open up your package.json file. And just for now, let's go ahead and go down to this React Router DOM right here. And instead of running 6.2, let's go ahead and run 5.2.0 for right now. So I'm going to save that, and we'll go to our terminal and just type npm space I, which is short for npm install. And what this will do is it's going to look at that package.json and it's going to see that something's changed in there. And so we've changed that version of React Router DOM. And so now we have a different version of React Router running. And now if we go back and refresh here, you can see that I do have errors, but it's not with React Router. It is with this auth index and app index. And that's because in this app.js, I have this component here for auth index and app index, and we actually haven't created those yet. So let's go ahead and let's get some stuff in place to go ahead and create that. And what I want to do is inside the source here, let's create a new file, and we'll call this one appindex.js. Okay, and for now on this appindex.js, what I want you to do is first of all import React from React, and then let's just go ahead and do a function here, and what we're going to use is we're just going to call it the same thing. So it's function app index, okay, and inside of here we're just going to return something. And for now, let's not do anything crazy. What I want to do is just test that this router is working. So we're going to return a div, which I don't know why. We'll return a div, and we're just going to write in there app index. Okay. So then what we need to do to make this work is if we go back to app.js, we need to import that. So we have this app index, but we haven't imported it. So let's import app index from, and then we'll give it the name of the file, app index, just like that. So this app index here is going to import this from here. Now we're still going to have a problem here, and I'll show you why. So if we go back here and refresh, it says that export default imported as app index was not found. Well, why is that? And it's because we didn't actually export this function. So it's not available for an import on another file. So what we have to do is at the bottom here, let's just do an export default, and we're going to call it app index, just like that. Now that we've done that, this is actually going to be added to our export modules, and it'll allow us to import it here. So now if we go back and refresh, now we got rid of that error, and it's now complaining that we don't have auth index. So let's go ahead now and let's build out auth index, or at least get it started. And what I think I want to do here is let's create inside source, let's create a new folder. And let's call this folder components. All right, and inside that components, let's create another folder called auth. And inside that auth, let's create a file called auth index.js. And in here, we're going to go ahead and import React from our library React. Okay, that's how that works. And then we're going to create a function called auth index. And this function is going to do nothing more right now than return. We're going to return, and if we're going to use multiple lines on a return, you have to put it in parentheses here. And we're just going to return a div, and we're going to call this auth index. So just put the text in there for now with a div, okay? And now let's not make the same mistake we did in the last one, and we need to export this so that it's available in our modules. So we're going to do export default auth index, and that's it. Now, most time you guys are probably thinking, man, why is he putting semicolons? You don't have to do semicolons in JavaScript most of the time. There are a few cases when you do need to. I'm just in the habit of doing that. I use a lot of other languages and stuff, and so it makes most sense to me. So auth index is not defined, so we have exported it, but if we go back to our app index, app.js, we haven't imported it yet. So right here, there's nothing, it doesn't know what we're talking about. So we need to go ahead and import auth index, and that's going to come from /components/auth/auth index. So if I save that now, you can see that now it says that we're in the auth index. Well, why are we in the auth index? It's because the path is /auth/login. But if I change that to just /, you can see that it says app index. And if I do something else, something else, I'll just type something else here. You can see that it's still loading the app index. And that's because the way that this switch works is it starts at the top and it evaluates our path. And if the path is something like this, it's going to load this auth index. And then it's going to go further down. And then eventually, if it gets down here, well, there is a / here. Even if we get rid of that /, it's still going to load app index. So when it gets down to the last one, if it doesn't find a path that matches above, it's going to load this one, which is the app index. So again, if we go back to /auth anything, it's going to be auth index. If we do something else or don't provide anything, it does the app index. So now we know that our route is working. And this would work, by the way, if I wasn't typing in here and hitting enter. If I had some sort of navigation, it wouldn't be reloading the page. It would work as a single page application. So let's see if we can go ahead and get some of that going. Let me see how long the video is up until this point. Okay, we're doing fine. I think we can do some more work, don't you? Let's get this thing done with. Why are we gonna take forever? Okay. So what I want to be able to do is let's go ahead and build out our main navigation. Okay. Sure. So our main navigation, let's go to components and right click on components here. And I'm going to create a new file inside of components called main nav.js, and I'm going to make sure that it's just in my components directory and not in my authentication. And on our main nav, let's go ahead and let's import React. And then I'm also going to, well, for now, let's just do import React from React. And then let's import our link and of a method called useHistory from our React router DOM library. And then let's create our function, and it's going to be called main nav, just like that. Now, you can pass, if you're going to be using props, you just pass them directly into this definition right here. And at the top here, let's go ahead and for now, let's just do a return. And what we want to return is an HTML element called nav. And let's just give that a class. Now, here's the first thing that we have to learn is in React, you can't do this. You can't use class like that. In fact, what you have to do is use class name. And when you use class name, we're going to give us a class of main nav. So let's talk just for a moment, because we're kind of just diving headlong in and typing code, but we don't understand why would I have to type class name instead of class? Well, because the way React works, this actually is not HTML. In fact, if you look at all of this, this kind of looks similar to HTML. It's got the opening and closing brackets, and it's got a closing pair that goes with this. And what this is called is JSX. Now, JSX is a way for us. It's included with, with our React scripts, okay? And React utilizes it. Instead of us having to write a bunch of stuff here, like in this function, what we normally have to do is we would do in JavaScript, we do document.create element, and we would create some sort of div, and then we would do, we would set that to a constant or something called L, and then we could give this a class name equal to main nav, and then we could do something like document dot get element by ID, and we could find that ID of root, and then we could do like append, and we could add our element into that nav. And this is kind of a JavaScript way of interacting with the DOM. But JSX, it handles all of this craziness for us, because this can get very, very crazy. And instead, it's going to compile down to vanilla JavaScript when it's run. But we can use these tags with a capital here, and this right here, even though it looks like an HTML tag or similar to it, it's not. What this is an instance of this method return. Okay, so when we create our own main nav, we would use that later on like this, main nav, and it could either have closing brackets or not. But this right here now would call this function. So this would be an instance of this function call, and this return would return some more JSX or some sort of component here. This is what's called a component. It would return this and plug it into the application wherever I use this main nav, and I could use this multiple times and have multiple instances of that main nav displayed on the screen, and I can use it like this instead of calling this function or doing a bunch of document.create elements. So that's essentially what we're doing here. So, and because of that, because this is actually JSX and not HTML, this is JavaScript, and it gets returned as JavaScript. This prop, this is called a property actually, oops, inside this nav is going to be turned into nav class, but the way that they do it here is it uses class name, okay? So I know that's a little confusing, but you're going to get the hang of it, I promise, as we go through and do this. All right, so one thing that we want to do here is I'm going to create inside this nav, I'm actually going to create a couple sections here. So we'll do section 1, and I'm going to give this one a class name equal to, and we'll just call that left. And then I'm going to give it another section down here. And we'll give this one a class name. Notice the camel case here when we're given this prop. It's a lowercase c and an uppercase n. And my IDE is not allowing me to highlight that and show you without highlighting everything. But basically, just make sure you have the spelling and the capitalization here correct. So inside of here, in the first left section here, I'm going to do an H2 with a class name of brand. And you can see that my IDE is not auto-filling this. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go to extensions. And I want you to type React.js up here. And let's find a React thing that works here. I'm going to try this one here. React extension pack. Let's try to install that. It helps with paths and things like that. I don't know if that's going to work without us resetting here, but hopefully what I'm attempting to do is I should be able to type in something like H2. I might have to get React emit or something like that, and I could give this a class of brand, and it should create. Let me try to search that React emit. It could be these snippets. Let's try this one, I guess. Simple React snippets. Let's try that out. And again, I don't know if this is. Oh well, I'll try to find something later and share it with you guys. But I can just give this an H2 here. And again, I'm going to give this a class name, and we're going to give this a class name of brand. Okay? And then what I'm going to put in here for now is my to-dos, and save that. All right, next up, what we need to be able to do is load this navigation somehow. So let me go to my app index here. And so go to appindex.js. And right here where we were returning a div, let's change that to a main, just to be semantically correct. This is going to be the main entry point for our application. And let's give this a class name equal to app. And then right here underneath that, we're going to actually load in. Remember how I told you we were going to load in our main nav? We're loading this in using JSX. So we need to import this. So we're going to import main nav from, and then where we're going to get this from is /components /main nav. Okay, that's where that lives. Now we do have a problem still, and that's because we haven't yet exported that main nav. So if we go here, go outside of the function and just type export default main nav. So some repetition here. Just remember that as you are building this, you create a function, and if you need to use this function outside of this file, you're going to have to export it so that later in this auth index we can import it and then use it. I'm sorry, in the app index. I'm going to close that so I don't get that confused again. I'm going to close a few of these other files that we don't need right now. But let's go ahead and see what happens now. And I can tell right now it's working. So we are in our app index, and if I inspect this, we can see that in the body we have a div called root. Now this div called root is actually coming from that index.html, but then injected here we have this main element with a class of app, so it doesn't say class name, and we have that nav with a class of main nav. Inside there we have a section with a class of left, and we have the h2 with a class of brand. So that's that right there. Okay, so let's go ahead now, and we need to create a couple of links to get us started. So underneath this, go back to the main nav.js, and in this left side here, after this h2, let's go ahead and use a link here, and this link comes from our React Router DOM, and we're just going to navigate to, so you have to give it a prop called to, and we'll just do /, and we're going to call this my to-dos. All right, and then go ahead and underneath that, let's add another link here, and we're going to, if they click that, we want them to go to to contacts, and we'll call it my contacts. So let's see what happens now. Okay, yeah, if we refresh, we see my to-dos and my contacts. So if I click contacts here, you can see that it adds contacts to the browser, but it's not refreshing the page. And if we look at the network, and we just go to all here, and I'm gonna clear this out. If I click these, I'm clicking these, but you don't see any network requests. That's because this is a single page application, and it's not actually doing anything like making network requests just by clicking these. It's simply updating this, and it's updating a class, it's going to be updating inside the main nav here. It's going to be updating this use history. Our browser history actually gets updated, so we can actually still use our back buttons and our forward buttons, even though it's not, we haven't navigated anywhere. We are updating the browser's history, and that's something that React Router DOM library that we installed is taking care of. So we're not having to do that manually. That is React Router DOM's magic here. And we're going to do a lot more work with this. But for now, we have this. Let's go and, in this right section here, let's just put some placeholder text here for now. Let's do a div. I keep doing this because I expect there to be, we're going to do a div with a class name equal to greeting. And inside of here, I'm just going to put hi Curtis for now. It's just placeholder. And then what I'll also do is create a button here. And this button, let's give it a class name equal to right. And let's give it an on-click. Now, notice that I did use the camel case on-click. Now remember, this button, even though it looks like HTML, this is JSX. And so this on-click like this is invalid in this case, even though HTML is all lowercase. This is a JSX prop that gets passed down as an on-click here. And so what we're going to do here is, for now, what I'm going to do is let's just run an anonymous function here, and we're just going to say window.alert, and we're going to type in log out. Okay, this isn't really going to do anything yet, but we're going to come back to this. So let's do log out here and save that, and let's refresh, and now we have this button here. So let's go. One thing we don't have yet is any styles. So I think what we should do at this point is go ahead and style our nav bar up. So let's do that. Let's go to public, and I'm going to create a new directory in here called styles. And inside there, I'm going to create a new file called app.css. Now, we're going to be using some CSS variables here. So at the top here, just do :root. And this is just regular CSS here, guys. But let's define a couple variables that we can use. I'm going to use danger color, and we're going to use b2232. Oh, sorry about that. b22 323. And then go ahead and do theme X dark for extra dark. And we're going to give that a color of 272838. And I spelled theme wrong, of course, because that's how I roll. And then we'll do theme dark. And here, let's use a color of 5D536B. All right, and let's do a theme medium. And we'll call this 76B91. Let's do theme light. So we'll just get some of these colors knocked out real quick. 989 FCE. And then let's do theme accent. And do 347 FC4 there. And then let's do a couple grays. Let's do gray dark. For gray dark, we'll do 333. Let's do a gray medium. And for there, let's go ahead and use 888. Let's do a gray light. And for the gray light, let's use BBB. And then let's do a gray extra light. And there we'll use FFF, which is just white, of course. I'm sorry, we're going to use DDD there. And then let's give a white, of course, is just FFF. And let's do one more for now. We'll do black 000. So now we have a bunch of HTML variables that we can use. Let's do some reset here. So let's do star, and we're going to set all the margin to 0 pixels, all the padding to 0 pixels as well as we're going to set box sizing to border box. Okay, so this is just a little bit of a reset on our HTML. Then what I want to do is in the body, let's go ahead and set the font family to Georgia, comma Helvetica, comma sans serif. Okay. And then what we're going to do here is do an H1, H2, H3, H4, and H5. Let's do margin bottom 1 EM. And we're going to give this a color, and we're going to use our color variable. Oops, I typed car again. I typed car. And this one, we're going to use the theme X dark there. Now let's go ahead and let's do our A and A visited. And let's go ahead and give that a color with a variable, and we're going to use our theme accent color there. And then what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and use an is, and we're going to say, hey, if it's hover or active, okay, then what I want to do is we're going to change the color to our theme medium. All right, so let's go ahead and start. Let's set up our app class here. So dot app. Let's do position relative, which may be unnecessary, but we might need that for a second. And let me find, let's just do our nav styles for now. So let's create, I'm gonna create like a weird little comment here. and then CSS, just to make it stand out. And we'll do our nav styles right here. So we're going to say nav.main nav, and we'll do position fixed top 0 pixels, left 0 pixels, and then we're going to give it a width of 100%, and let's give this a height of 55 pixels, and let's give it a display of flex, align our items to the center, and let's give it a background color. We'll use our variable here, and we're going to give it a theme X dark. We're going to do padding, do 0 pixels on top and bottom and 28 pixels on the left and right. And in between all of our elements here, let's use gap 18 to give it 18 pixels. Let's see what that looks like before we get too far down. And it doesn't change, and the reason it doesn't change is because we're not loading this app.css in. So if we go back now to our, let's go to public, and let's look at that index.html. So go to public and go to the index.html, and up here in the head, let's go ahead and right before the title, let's go ahead and add a link style sheet here. And what we're going to do is give it, use the % here, and we're going to use our public URL that comes from our manifest.json there, and we'll do / styles /styles / app.css. Now if I save that and refresh, well, I don't need to refresh, it's already starting to load here. So that's looking good. I'm going to close this down here. And let's go back to our CSS and continue taking care of some of the nav styles. So right here, I'm going to say, hey, nav.main nav. Well, let's just do our H2s inside of there. We're going to do a margin bottom of 0 pixels. So that'll clear that out. And then let's do nav.main nav, and we'll do our left column here. And so that left, we'll do flex grow 1, which will allow it to grow across all of its available space. We're going to give that also a display of flex with align items center, and we'll do a gap of 18 pixels on that as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And now you can see that we have our to-dos, our list right here, and then it's growing all the way across because of that flex grow, and then we have our hi Curtis and log out over there. Now it doesn't look good yet, and frankly it's not going to look great at any point because I didn't spend a ton of time trying to make this look good. This is more, you know, for demonstration. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on CSS or anything like that in this chapter, but I want to get this main nav kind of working. We'll do the same thing on the right. We're not going to do a flex grow though. And then let's go ahead and style up the brand. So main nav dot brand, and let's give that a color, and we're going to use our variable here, And we're going to give it a color of theme. Let's try theme light. And give it a little bit more breathing room. So we're going to do margin right 28 pixels. Now our gap would give it 18 pixels, but we're going to give it a little more on the brand here, just to give it a little bit of space between this and where the nav actually starts. So now we have our my to-dos, and then we have this, and both of these links are working. And then over here it says hi Curtis and log out. We'll style up that button a little bit later, but let's go ahead and clean up just a few more things here in the nav. So we're going to say nav main nav, and then we'll use the is, and we're going to say if it's an A or a button, then what I'd like to do is give it a color, and we're going to use our gray dash light here for our text color. And then we're going to do text decoration none to get rid of those ugly underlines. We'll do background transparent and border none. That's mainly to take care of that little button thing. And display inline block. All right, and then let's go ahead and take care of our hover action. So do nav.main nav is, and we'll do a button colon hover. So for the hover state, we'll do cursor pointer, and let's change the color to our variable. And the variable we'll use there is white. Let me scroll down here. The next thing that I want to do is let's do main dash nav comma a hover. I just want these to be white. And then we'll give this a color. So these white on our dark gray background will give it nice contrast, be real easy to read. So now if we hover, that becomes a lighter white there. And now you can see our hi Curtis is different colors, and then our log out is a button, but it looks more like a link for now. Okay. So now we have this main nav kind of loading in, and it doesn't matter what page we're on, we're going to have this navigation here. When we're not logged in, we're not going to have a navigation actually, and it's just going to be a form that will pop up, and we'll take care of the CSS, I think, as we go. I think that's good now for the nav. There are, some we're going to need to style up our pretty much everything, tables, form elements, and all of that, but we'll just do it as we go because I don't want to do a whole video of just CSS on this. So we'll come back to this file as we need to make things look a little better. I think we're about a third of the way done though, so it's not too bad. We're not going to have a ton of CSS, and we're not using anything like Bootstrap or anything like that. We're just doing it all with raw CSS just for a little more practice. All right, let me take a look and see if there's anything else that I wanted to kind of finish up in this. I think we're pretty good there. Yeah, I think we're just gonna go ahead and leave it here, and we'll come back, and once we get a little more complicated by learning some things called context and things like that. We're going to need to do some other stuff, but for now, I'm going to leave it simple like this, just so we can start getting our layout and things like that done. All right, guys, well, I hope you're enjoying this so far. Just remember, the main thing that I want you to understand right now is how the application is being loaded and how it's injected into this index.html. So understand that. And then understand how we are exporting our functions, and we're going to return what looks to be like HTML, but is instead JSX. And so kind of understand that it's not HTML, even though it looks like HTML. And then I want you to understand, just kind of start understanding how we can get other libraries to do some things for us. And even though some of these elements here are lowercase, this is actually going to get turned into an HTML element, but it's not an HTML element right now. This is actually still just JSX. So we have to use different, this is actually a property. This is or a JSX attribute. So if you see I highlighted, it even tells me that's a JSX attribute, and it's not a it is not an HTML attribute. So that even this H2, even though it looks like a regular H2 element, this is JSX. Okay, so if you understand that up until this point, then you're doing well. Okay, I know that there's a lot of stuff that we haven't explained yet, but we're going to continue to build upon those things, and we're going to have so much repetition that I think you're going to understand what's going on. But right now we're just creating individual files that will house single responsibility stuff. So this main nav file is just going to have our navigation in it. And what's cool about that is this function, anytime I want to add a main nav, all I have to do is do what I did here in the app index. I can use JSX with a capital name after I've imported it and use my component, my custom component, and just plug it right there. And in this case, we plugged it inside of what's going to be a main with a class of app. So I hope that makes sense, guys. If you're a little lost, I would say don't be too frustrated yet. It's going to take a little while to start getting the feel for how React works, and more importantly, why would we type so much more code to do something we already know how to do in regular HTML? Well, we're going to see the power very soon of React and why we would do that when I could literally type 3 lines of code with regular HTML. Why would I do all of this? And you'll see the benefits of that as we go. All right, guys, well, I'm going to go ahead and push this up so that you guys have it. I'm going to do a git add, git commit, and we'll just put v2, and we're going to say started our navigation menu, and I'm going to push that, and then I'm going to go and check out master here, and we're going to do a git merge, and I'm going to merge v2 into master, and we will push that up as well. Oops, did I not? What? Git push set upstream. I thought I did this already. Origin master. Get out of here. Boom. So everything's up to date. Let me just double check GitHub, and we'll refresh here, and hopefully there's a v2 in here. And indeed there is. So if you guys are stuck on this video, you can pull the branch v2 down and check it out, and hopefully that will help you out. I'll see you guys in the next video. Leave me a comment, like and subscribe. Let me know if you've learned anything so far and what you're most excited about learning in this chapter.